Welcome to OOTO TV, the out-of-the-office investigation from the past into the future of diet and health. This time we're discussing dietary fats and health impacts. Hello and welcome. I'm Bob, and I'm genuinely excited to be here with Sue today. We're embarking on a really crucial investigation into something that's, well, it's often misunderstood, isn't it? Dietary fat.
It really is, Bob, often demonized, sometimes celebrated, but rarely fully understood in the mainstream.
Exactly. And it's absolutely fundamental to our health. So it's time we move beyond those simple labels, good fat, bad fat.
Indeed. Our goal today is really to peel back the layers on these dietary fats. We want to reveal their complex and honestly often surprising realities. We want to help you, our listener, cut through all that noise and really grasp what truly matters for your health and well-being.
Right. So we'll start by understanding the foundational role fats play in your body. Then we'll get into the different types, the unsaturated fats people often praise.
The MUFAs and PUFAs.
The often debated saturated fats, and of course those trans fats everyone agrees are bad news, mostly.
Mostly, yes. There's a twist there, too. We'll uncover their specific impacts on everything, really, from your heart and your brain to how they show up in processed foods.
And we'll tackle some of those popular debates, too, like what's the real story with coconut oil and full-fat dairy? Is okay now?
We'll look at what the latest research says. It's going to be quite an insightful journey, I think.
Okay, let's kick things off. First, a clear declaration. Fats are an important part of a healthy diet.
Absolutely crucial. We need to say that loud and clear.
In fact, fat is as essential to your diet as protein and carbohydrates are in fueling your body with energy. Simple as that.
And dietary fat, which, is also known as fatty acids, you find it in foods from both plants and animals. It's everywhere.
And here's what's particularly noteworthy, Sue. Certain bodily functions simply rely on fat being there.
That's right. Like, think about vitamins. Some vital vitamins require fat just to dissolve into your bloodstream so your body can actually use them. They need that fatty taxi, essentially.
It's quite profound, isn't it, how foundational fats are. Not just energy, but like you said, critical for proper brain function.
No, massively. Think about those long-chain omega-3s, especially DHA. They're vital for the actual structure of your brain, areas involved in memory, learning. These healthy fats make sure the cell membranes around your neurons stay flexible, fluid. That's absolutely essential for receptors and signaling molecules to work right as brain cells talk to each other.
Wow, so it's not just fuel, it's like the building materials and the communication network.
Exactly. And they even form the myelin sheath, that fatty coating, like insulation on a wire.
Yeah.
It lets nerve signals travel super fast and efficiently. Without it, things really slow down.
That really helps visualize it. Makes you completely reconsider that whole fat-free craze from years ago, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It was so misguided in many ways. And fats do even more. They insulate and protect your vital organs, help regulate body temperature.
Keep your skin and hair healthy.
Right. And as you mentioned, Bob, crucial for absorbing those fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. You just can't get them properly without dietary fat. It's remarkable how indispensable they are, which is precisely why the 2015 U.S. Dietary Guidelines actually removed the upper limit that used to be placed on total fat intake.
A huge shift.
It was, because we're talking about macronutrients that our bodies absolutely require to thrive. Not just tolerate, but thrive.
Okay, so if fats are essential, let's talk types. If there's one group that consistently gets, enthusiastic praise, it's the unsaturated fats.
The good guys, generally speaking.
And let's be clear, some fats are better for you than others and may even help to promote good health. We're talking powerhouses like monounsaturated fats or MUFAs.
The MUFAs. Think olive oil.
Delicious olive oil, avocados, nuts like almonds, hazelnuts, macadamias, all that good stuff.
And these MUFAs are, they're superstars at helping reduce your bad LDL cholesterol and triglycerides.
And they boost the good HDL cholesterol, too.
Right. Plus, they help lower blood pressure, improve insulin sensitivity, and actively fight inflammation. They really are versatile health champions.
Okay, so MUFAs are great. What about the other unsaturated ones?
The
Yes.
polyunsaturated fats, or
Yeah.
PUFAs. Equally vital, Bob. These are your essential fats, meaning your body actually can't make them. You have to get them from your diet.
It's essential, like omega-3s.
Exactly. The omega-3s within the PUFAs are true brain MVPs, as we touched on. Beyond just structure and communication, diets rich in these fats, think salmon, walnuts, flaxseed, chia seeds, they're linked to improved focus, maybe even protection against mental fatigue. And it's also worth remembering the omega-6s, also PUFAs. found in things like tofu, roasted soybeans, sunflower oil, corn oil, sesame oil.
Right, I cook with those sometimes.
And they're necessary too, but the key is balance. You need a healthy balance between omega-6 and omega-3 to kind of keep inflammation in check. Too much omega-6 relative to omega-3 might promote inflammation for some people.
Okay, so unsaturated fats sound amazing. But Sue, here's where it gets really interesting, maybe a bit contrary.
Uh-huh.
While these PUFAs are incredible for health, they're also, well, delicate.
That's a very good way to put it. They are quite delicate, very sensitive to light and heat. They're prone to oxidation, going rancid.
Which means, what, for us at home?
It means for maximum benefit, you really should refrigerate oils rich in PUFAs, like flaxseed oil, and maybe surprisingly for some, avoid using them in high heat cooking.
Whoa. So searing salmon in flaxseed oil is probably not the best idea.
Probably not ideal for preserving those precious omega-3s, no. It might make you rethink how you're using some of your favorite seemingly healthy oils. It's a bit of a paradigm shift, isn't it?
Definitely. Almost shocking to think some cooking habits might actually be damaging the good stuff.
It highlights that even healthy things need careful handling.
You're listening to OTO TV with research by author Paul Bulow.
Now, Bob, let's move on to the fats that have had maybe the most controversial history. Saturated fats.
Ah, yes, the ones labeled bad for so long.
Exactly. For decades, the advice was just cut them out. Full stop. But like any good mystery, the plot has thickened considerably. Now we understand there's far more nuance.
Okay, so not just simply bad anymore.
Not necessarily. While traditionally, yes, high amounts were linked to increased LDL cholesterol, more recent studies suggest that diets high in saturated fat don't automatically raise heart disease risk for everyone.
Right, the picture's getting complicated.
It is. The key takeaway now seems to be less about good versus bad and more about the source of the saturated fat, and importantly, what you might replace it with. For instance, certain sources, like full-fat cheese or grass-fed butter, might even offer potential benefits. We're seeing fascinating research on, say, short-chain SFAs and grass-fed butter that actually fuel colon cells.
Fuel colon cells from butter.
Potentially, yes. And medium-chain SFAs, like those in coconut milk or breast milk, offer quick energy and even have antimicrobial properties. That's a world away from the blanket condemnation they used to get.
That really does complicate the simple bad fat narrative, Sue.
Yeah.
It shifts our thinking. But, and this is important, we have to declare that choosing the type of fat is critical.
Always critical.
Because while some saturated fats are being reevaluated, other research brings some stark realities back into focus. Remember that Iranian study on processed meat products?
Yes, the hamburgers and kebabs.
Exactly. It found significantly high levels of saturated fatty acids, especially palmitic acid. And that one is still clearly linked to increasing cholesterol levels in many studies.
A very common saturated fat.
Right. And the total fat content in some of those products, like cordon bleu and nuggets, actually exceeded Iranian national standards. So the type of fat in processed foods like these remains a serious public health concern.
This brings us right to the practical application, doesn't it? How does this evolving understanding impact your dietary strategies day to day?
What should people actually do?
Well, it strongly reinforces that replacing less healthy saturated fats, particularly those from processed sources with healthy monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats, is a significant public health strategy. It demonstrably lowers the risk of cardiovascular disease. The evidence for this is stronger than ever.
Okay, so swap out some saturated fat for unsaturated fat. Seems clear.
But, and this is a huge but, Bob, simply cutting saturated fat isn't enough. If you replace it with, say, refined carbohydrates, white bread, sugary snacks, pastries.
The stuff many people turn to when they cut fat.
Exactly. If you do that, you'll likely see no decrease in heart disease risk and potentially even an increase. It is absolutely all about the quality of the replacement food.
So swapping butter for a bagel might not be the health upgrade people think.
Not necessarily. For example, replacing saturated fat with carbs from whole grains is associated with about a 9% lower risk of coronary heart disease. But replacing it with refined starches or added sugars? No significant benefit, maybe even a slight harm. Quality, quality, quality.
Okay, now let's shift gears to the fat that almost everyone agrees is problematic. Industrial trans fats.
Ah, the artificial ones. Yes, these are generally seen as the real villains of the fat world.
They're engineered, right, by adding hydrogen to liquid vegetable oils.
Correct. It makes the oil solid at room temperature, gives foods a longer shelf life, better texture, but it distorts the fat molecule's natural structure in a way that makes it profoundly unhealthy for us.
And you find them in so many processed foods. Crackers, cookies, frozen pizza, a lot of fast food.
Unfortunately, yes, the levels have decreased significantly due to regulations. The research is unequivocal. They dramatically raise your bad LDL cholesterol and, crucially, lower your good HDL cholesterol.
A double whammy for heart health.
Exactly. They strongly increase the risk of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, maybe even certain cancers. Their danger is so clear that the FDA has moved to revoke their generally recognized as safe, or GRA status.
So avoid artificial trans fats. Clear message.
You're listening to OOTO TV, with research by author Paul Bulow. But Bob, here's that contrary point I hinted at earlier. What's often overlooked is that there's a whole other category, naturally occurring trans fats.
Naturally occurring. How?
Like conjugated linoleic acid, or CLA, you find small amounts naturally in grass-fed animal meat and dairy products. It's formed by bacteria in the animal's stomachs.
Okay, so are these natural ones bad too?
Well, this is fascinating. Unlike their industrial artificial counterparts, these natural trans fats are not associated with heart disease in the amounts typically consumed. Some research even suggests they might be beneficial.
Beneficial? How?
Studies have linked them potentially to a lower risk of heart disease, improved glucose tolerance, maybe reduced cancer risk, and even some potential for weight management. It's still being researched, but it really challenges the idea that all trans fats are identical villains.
Wow, so trans fat on a label isn't the whole story. This means when you're looking at food labels, you need to be really savvy, don't you?
Absolutely, because even if a product label proudly claims 0 grams of trans fats per serving.
Which they can do if it's below 0.5 grams.
Precisely. If you scan the ingredients list and see partially hydrogenated oil, that's the key phrase. You are still consuming those unhealthy industrial trans fats, just maybe in small amounts per serving.
So the kind of fat truly makes a difference. And that Iranian study we mentioned, it reinforced this too. While overall fat decreased in some processed meats over time, the trans fatty acid levels in hamburgers and lokma kebab were still concerningly high, actually exceeding national limits there.
Yes, it underscored the urgent, ongoing need to minimize or eliminate these semi-hydrogenated oils in processed foods globally.
Okay, let's tackle another hot topic, Sue, one that's seen a huge reevaluation: dietary cholesterol.
Ah, yes. Eggs used to be public enemy #1 because of this.
Right. For decades, we were told, strictly limit dietary cholesterol. It was considered a major dietary villain, contributing directly to high blood cholesterol.
But the science has really evolved here. For the vast majority of people, the cholesterol you eat in food actually has surprisingly little impact on the cholesterol levels in your blood.
How can that be?
Primarily because our bodies, particularly our livers, are incredibly good at making their own cholesterol. And they regulate production based on how much you eat. Eat more, make less. Eat less, make more, generally speaking.
So our bodies are pretty smart about it.
Very smart. And cholesterol itself isn't bad. It's actually a vital building block. We need it for making many hormones, think stress hormones, sex hormones, for synthesizing vitamin D, and it's a key structural component of all our cell membranes. Our bodies require a significant amount just for basic function.
That's a massive shift from the old dogma, isn't it? Decades of avoiding egg yolks.
Indeed. But Bob, here's an important point of individual variability, just like we saw with saturated fats.
Ah, the plot thickens again.
While it's true for most people, studies do indicate that for maybe up to a quarter of the population, sometimes called hyperresponders, high amounts of dietary cholesterol do significantly increase both their bad LDL and their good HDL cholesterol.
So again, it's not quite a one-size-fits-all answer.
Yeah.
Individual biology matters.
It really does. Which leads us nicely into another popular fat that causes a lot of debate: coconut oil.
Oh yeah, the superfood darling of recent years.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. And again, just to reiterate our earlier point, some fats are better for you than others and may even help to promote good health. So where does coconut oil fit?
Well, Bob, that's a great question, and it highlights the crucial need to look beyond the hype. Despite its soaring popularity and all the perceived health benefits, recent large meta-analyses of clinical trials have pretty consistently shown something quite contrary to the popular narrative.
Which is?
Coconut oil consumption significantly increases LDL cholesterol, the bad kind, compared to non-tropical vegetable oils like olive or sunflower oil.
Increases LDL. But I thought it was healthy. Doesn't it also raise HDL, the good cholesterol?
It does tend to raise HDL as well, yes. But here's the nuance. A lot of modern research, including genetic studies and big drug trials, has cast serious doubt on whether simply raising HDL levels automatically translates to reduced cardiovascular disease risk. It's not as simple as HDL good, LDL bad anymore.
Interesting. So just boosting HDL might not be the protective magic bullet we once thought.
Exactly. And based on its effect on LDL, major organizations like the American Heart Association, for example, strongly advise against the routine use of coconut oil.
Wow. Why does it raise LDL so much?
Well, it's incredibly high in saturated fat, about 90%. And a large chunk of that, maybe 70%, is made up of specific saturated fatty acids, lauric, myristic, and palmitic acids, which have been shown in many studies to increase LDL cholesterol.
That is compelling information, especially given how aggressively it's marketed as a healthy choice. It feels like there's a real disconnect between the marketing and some of the clinical data.
There often is. And the data also suggests there's really no clear evidence it offers benefits over other unsaturated vegetable oils for things like reducing body fat, improving blood sugar control, or lowering inflammation markers either.
What about those arguments you hear about populations who traditionally eat a lot of coconut having low rates of heart disease?
That's often brought up, but those are typically based on observational studies. It's really hard to isolate the effect of just the coconut. Those populations often have very different overall lifestyles and diets. Maybe lots of fish, lots of fiber, very few processed foods, many confounding factors that likely contribute to their heart health. It's not just the coconut oil in isolation.
You're listening to OTO TV with research by author Paul Bulow.
So, Bob, that distinction between population observations and controlled trials is vital. Now, let's try and tie some of these threads back together, thinking about processed foods again.
Right, like that Iranian meat study.
Exactly. It revealed that even though the total fat content might have decreased in some products compared to older studies, the levels of trans fatty acids in things like hamburgers and logme kebab were still concerningly high, actually exceeding their national limits.
So progress on one front maybe, but still issues with the type of fat used.
Precisely. It reinforces that urgent need to minimize those semi-hydrogenated oils for overall public health, especially in widely consumed products.
So it really feels like a constant balancing act in our diets, doesn't it? On one hand, we have these ongoing concerns about certain fats in processed meats. But on the other hand, the narrative around something like full-fat dairy has shifted so dramatically.
It really has. And this prompts that important question. How do you, the listener, balance these diverse, sometimes conflicting pieces of information in your daily choices?
Yeah, what's the practical takeaway?
Well, let's look at dairy. While, yes, dairy fat does contribute saturated fat to the diet, large, comprehensive studies covering hundreds of thousands of adults followed for decades found no link between eating cheese and dying early.
No link with cheese. That's good news for many.
And consuming milk, cheese, and yogurt didn't seem to increase heart disease risk overall. In fact, there was even a slight reduction in stroke risk observed for those consuming milk, cheese, and yogurt.
A reduction. Interesting.
And again, the type of saturated fat seems to matter. Dairy fat contains certain odd-length fatty acids, and these are associated with a lower risk of type 2 diabetes, potentially behaving differently in the body than the more common even-length saturated fats like stearate found in meat or palmitate found in processed foods and palm oil.
So the take-home message isn't just avoid all saturated fat, is it? It's much more about what you're eating it with, the whole food matrix.
Exactly. And crucially, what you might be replacing it with.
Right. Because studies show replacing dairy fats specifically with polyunsaturated fats, like from nuts, seeds, fish, vegetable oils, was associated with a significant, roughly 24–25% lower risk of coronary heart disease and stroke.
A substantial benefit.
Replacing that same dairy fat with refined carbohydrates and sugars offered no such benefit at all.
See, that pattern again, it truly underscores that choosing the type of fat and the type of replacement is absolutely critical for your health.
You mentioned the Pu-phosphate ratio earlier, polyunsaturated to saturated fatty acids.
Yes, it can be a useful indicator, though not perfect. It gives a rough idea of the fat quality. In that Iranian study, for instance, sausages had the highest Pu-phosphate ratio, around 2.23, while hamburgers had the lowest, a mere 0.06.
And what's considered good?
Well, for optimal health, many nutritional organizations recommend aiming for a Pu-phosphate ratio of at least 0.4, so that hamburger value is quite low.
Very low.
But Bob, it's also important to note that a very high P-phosphor ratio isn't necessarily better either. Remember how delicate PUFAs are?
Prone to oxidation, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Very high levels can increase susceptibility to lipid peroxidation, potentially increasing oxidative stress in the body. So there seems to be an optimal range, not just a simple more PUFA is always better approach. It highlights the delicate balance required.
Balance seems to be the key word throughout this whole discussion.
It really is. And historically, successful public health efforts like the big Finnish National Health Project starting back in 1972 showed this. They strategically encouraged reducing high-fat milk and butter intake alongside other changes.
And it worked.
It contributed significantly. Serum cholesterol levels dropped by 13–18%, and coronary heart disease death rates fell dramatically over the following decades. It was a comprehensive shift in dietary patterns, not just fiddling with one nutrient in isolation.
Well, Sue, what an incredible investigation into dietary fats. It's just abundantly clear that the story of fat is far, far more nuanced than those simple headlines we often see.
Absolutely, Bob. It's gone from being the ultimate villain to being recognized as vital, but with so many important details and twists along the way.
The major insight for me, really, is that not all fats are created equal. That feels like the core message.
Definitely. We've seen that healthy unsaturated fats, MUFAs, PUFAs from plants, nuts, seeds, fish, they really are champions for heart and brain health.
We also learned about their sensitivity. Got to be careful with heat and light, especially with those PUFAs.
Crucial point. And the recurring theme, as we saw again and again, is how critical replacements are.
Yes. Swapping out harmful industrial trans fats, or even excess saturated fats, from less ideal sources. Swapping them for healthy, unsaturated fats, or even better, whole grains. That provides significant health benefits.
But swapping them for refined carbs, sugars, no benefit. Potentially detrimental, sometimes even worse than the original fat. It really drives home the message about the quality of our calories, not just the quantity or the type of macronutrient.
So this really begs the question for you, the listener. How can you apply this more nuanced understanding to your own daily choices?
We've covered so much ground. How dietary fat, those fatty acids from plants and animals, is as essential as protein and carbs for energy.
How it's vital for brain structure, protecting organs, absorbing those crucial fat-soluble vitamins. Fats are truly indispensable.
We've also seen that while maybe overall fat is decreasing in some processed foods, the type of fat like certain saturated fatty acids or those lingering trans fats, remains a significant concern in specific products. You have to read labels carefully.
And that reevaluation of dietary cholesterol for most people, plus the complex, sometimes contrary data on popular fats like coconut oil, it really highlights how individual nutrition can be.
It's not always black and white. It's about understanding the principles and maybe seeking guidance if you have specific health concerns.
We really hope you now feel more informed, more empowered to choose those fats that genuinely are better for you and may even help promote good health.
And this journey truly emphasizes that understanding the specific fatty acid profiles within fats, rather than just broad categories like saturated or unsaturated, is increasingly important.
Right, not all saturated fats act the same way in the body.
Exactly. And even within unsaturated fats, there are those important distinctions, particularly around stability, processing, and the omega-3, omega-6 balance.
Thank you so much for joining us on this really in-depth discussion about dietary fats, Sue. It's truly been enlightening for me.
And for me too, Bob. It's a conversation that underscores how our understanding of nutrition is constantly evolving. We're always building on new research, challenging old assumptions. It keeps things interesting.
It certainly does. So what does this all mean for you?
Well, given everything we've learned, the specific impacts of different fatty acids, their delicate nature, the nuance around saturated fats from different sources, the clear danger of industrial trans fats versus their natural cousins, maybe the true ongoing investigation into dietary fat isn't just about labeling things good or bad.
What is it then?
Perhaps it's about how well we can truly understand and maybe even control the intricate balance of these different fat molecules in our food supply and ultimately in our own bodies to optimize our health and longevity for the future. It's moving beyond avoidance towards optimization.
Optimizing, not just avoiding. What a fantastic thought to leave with. From all of us at OTOTV, thank you so much for listening.